Kyle, welcome aboard.
I'm glad to be here. You guys gave me an excuse to put some product in my hair, and I got a polo shirt on. So
Yeah,
it's
looking
a good day.
spiffy.
It's a big day for me.
Yeah, you're almost more dressed up for this than we are. So, all right. So
No,
just getting
I'm glad to
into
be
it.
here.
Just getting into it. You're kind of like the social media, digital content manager. You just want to run through like your typical day to day routine and stuff like that.
Yeah, so a lot of what I do is more on the website. So it's a lot of the articles you read. Our video team will put together great videos, and we put those up on our website and YouTube, and that goes across Timberwolves and Lynx channels. Basically, any content that you see at Timberwolves.com or LynxBasketball.com ultimately goes through me and a few other people. So we have a pretty big digital content team. I think there's like 12 or 13 of us, and that goes from it's crazy because 5 years ago when I started, it was social media. I think we had one person on the web, and then two video people. And I think we have 13 or 14 people now.
Oh
So
wow.
it's certainly taken over. And the Timberwolves, I mean, they've invested plenty into it as well. But yeah, that's kind of my day to day. There's really nothing. No day is similar to the last. So
Yeah.
it keeps me on my toes.
I mean, definitely when you get a guy like Deangelo Russell coming in, you just gotta go all in, put all the money where it's at, and
Yeah, D'Lo's a stud.
Yeah, it was so crazy how that happened because, and obviously, like you guys were paying attention in the summer, and there's these rumors that the Timberwolves are interested in him, and it was probably the worst kept secret in basketball, and it's probably by design. And then the trade deadline approaches, and none of us thought that it was actually going to happen. And
yeah,
I was actually playing basketball at Lifetime over lunch break. So I mean, we traded like up to that point, we traded like 10 players, and I was like, well,
yeah.
there's no way we're going to make any other moves. And all of a sudden, somebody walking by goes, Ratke, they just got Russell. So I just sprinted right off the court into the locker room, right upstairs, just still sweating,
Time to
get
go
to my
back to
desk.
work.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool. So I just have like this ridiculous theory here. I'm gonna throw it out there. I'm probably gonna get hate for it, but I'm just gonna
Hit
go
me.
for it anyway. So starting five of D'Lo, Cat, Booker, LaMelo Ball, and Malik Beasley.
It's not
What
gonna
would you have
happen.
to say to that?
Well, who's going to play defense? That'd be my first question.
When you put up 170 a game, that won't be an issue.
Well, I mean,
Defense
that's
wins
true.
championships.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a talented team. A lot of three-point shooting. It's hard to say no. The thing in the NBA, it's so crazy because, and I was talking to somebody about this not too long ago. The off seasons are almost more exciting for fans than the actual season. And,
Yeah.
and with 82 games, I think you'll have that.
Mhm.
I think same for baseball. But it is just crazy because you get all these speculations of like who could go where.
Yeah.
The Timberwolves have three pretty valuable picks in the draft. Like, could they trade those? Like, what player could be available? And like, you know, back 5 years ago, a player hitting free agency, you didn't even talk about them going to a different team until maybe January or February. Now, like we talk about a player where they're going like 4 years before they're a free agent, which is like it's like the pre-free agency,
Yeah, it's
which is wild to me.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's basically just like building up super teams and stuff like that, and it's just getting to that point.
Well, eventually, I think we're going to see that balance back out, and I think we're kind of seeing it. Like, yes, you probably need you probably need two stars, but like I don't know if you guys are watching the Last Dance documentary over at ESPN.
Yep.
A lot of those teams were. I mean, like you looked at the Lakers back then, and like with Magic and Worthy. You look at the Pistons might be the exception, but you look at the Celtics. And they have, 4 or 5 Hall of Famers on their team. And the Bulls, I mean, obviously you have the best player in the world, but you still had Pippen and Rodman. So I think there's always been super teams. I just think that maybe the superstars trying to lure players on their team is a little more it's a little more obvious today, probably with social media and whatnot.
Yeah, the superstars are the GMs.
They are.
It's
Yeah, I mean,
ridiculous.
you think about it, right? It's like the guys you talk about most are like the Daryl Morey's of the world, in Houston. And it is true. And like, even this year, I remember like when the Wolves were going to sign Russell, you looked at the cap numbers and you were like, well, there's no way they can afford him.
Yeah.
And, Gerson Rosas had this like wild way where he could, trade this contract, acquire this player, and they have it all figured out before. You're right. too much math for me, but
Yeah,
they are certainly the stars.
yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where that goes. Have you hung out like around D'Lo and stuff like that, getting some shoots with them and stuff like that?
I mean, it was such a short time because it was only about a month that we had with him before everything happened. We were there at the airport when he arrived, and that was pretty cool. And I think with Deangelo Russell especially because he was at the Lakers, and obviously there were some issues there. I think a lot of that probably is just the immaturity. And then he goes to Brooklyn, and he ends up thriving in Brooklyn. But I think if you're a team and you have the decision, okay, we're going to get Kyrie and Durant, it's a move that you make sense of. And, then he goes to Golden State, and with them having Curry and Thompson coming back, I don't think he ever felt wanted. And when he got to Minnesota, he felt like he's like, okay, I feel like I'm wanted here, which is crazy to think for an all-star point guard that might have not been the case. So that was really cool. But other than that, I mean, just games. And I think he played in 12 games, a dozen games. So, it's hard to get a real feel for him, but he seems like a good guy who's going to fit.
Yeah, he's definitely making it exciting to get back into the Wolves and try and make that push for a championship that we've so desperately desired over the course of the team's history, basically since they got started. Like, got close once, and just nothing really has come up since.
Yeah. It is funny because like you look at, I wrote an article and I was like, well, it wouldn't take much for Deangelo Russell to become the team's best point guard, in team history. And I know that's not saying a whole lot, just given the success of the team, but I think it does say like, you have an all-star point guard, you get an all-star center in Carl, who knows what Malik Beasley is going to be, and the pieces you put around that. I mean, I think, they're much closer now than they were before the trade deadline.
Yep.
And I don't know if you can like write that on like a bumper sticker. Like that's not like a great marketing slogan. Like we're closer now than we were before. But I mean, that's how team building works. So I mean, and they're all still young. We all want these. I think when you get players, and especially the Timberwolves, you get, if you get Levine, Wiggins, and Towns, and they were all like 20 or 21.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, these guys are so talented, right?
Yep.
And you want them to like flip the switch right away. And I think a lot of people forget that, and myself included, that these players, they normally don't hit their peak until they're 27, 28. So you go through like this weird, like, almost a decade stretch where like you're not winning enough. And I think people get impatient.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that you just got to like try and convince people that like this is the rebuild, this is where we're starting, and this is where we're going to go. Like we're going to try and stay on course as best we can, and you just got to go with it. And there's going to be troubles here and there with every rebuild that any team goes through. And
Yeah, but this team, I don't know. I love the Wolves, but it seems like they've been in a rebuild for a long time. Take away a couple years ago, but still.
Yeah, I would say the difference now is I think you actually have a cornerstone player in Carl, and I agree. Like, and it's hard because I think when you're a fan, right, you're the same fan and you're rooting for the same team. But I think like there's so many different pieces that come in. So you have Gerson who comes in last year, and he signs all these players and does a trade, and I don't know if I'd call this a rebuild. It's more of a transition, probably upward. But it's fair for the fans to get impatient. I understand that, but it's also unfair to the people that are stepping into those roles. It's like if you're Gerson and his staff, it's like, well, I haven't been here for the last 15 years. Like, don't point your finger at me. Like, I'm trying to make this better. So I think that's like the one thing, especially when you work for a team, you see both sides,
definitely.
of the argument.
Just switching gears here, the NBA draft and the combine ended up getting pushed back, or the lottery, sorry. Lottery ended up getting pushed back. I mean, you see things with the NFL and how they did the NFL draft just last weekend.
Virtual.
Was that like any possibility at all for the NBA that you know of, or?
Not that I know of. I'm just going to give you some guesses here, and I think it was yesterday the news came out about the combine and the lottery. Not surprising at all. The combine was supposed to be 2 weeks from now, and I normally go every year, and there's really probably no way that's going to happen. And then the lottery, I mean, I honestly think a draft lottery would be trickier to do virtually than draft would be.
Yeah.
So let's first hit on the lottery. So I mean, like you hear all the conspiracies of like the Cavs had 3 number 1 picks in like 4 years. There's obviously the frozen envelope with the Knicks and Ewing. That would be tricky because if all of a sudden, whatever team ends up with the first pick, there's going to be plenty of reasons why if people aren't able to see it in person.
That's a great point.
I think they'll try to get people into a room for the lottery. The draft, I mean, that all depends because are we looking at a September draft? Well, if it's in September, maybe we can do it in person. It really depends when the season, how it plays out, when the playoffs start. So I think we're probably looking at pushing things into the fall, just given it where we're at. We don't even know when we're coming back yet. And you got to think by the time they announce something, you're probably still 2 or 3 weeks away to get the players ready. So, but I do think, and the WNBA did it first with the virtual draft. And I thought that they showed that it was certainly possible. And then the NFL, obviously, with the resources they have, I think everybody said that last weekend or maybe 2 weekends ago was a giant success. I think it kind of went without a glitch. And besides Roger Goodell doing his telling fans to start booing him, it was kind of annoying. It's like Roger, it's like sit down. Well, and one time I think he said no more booze, and I thought he meant he was talking to somebody saying he needs to not drink anymore. He kind of slurred his words. But I do think the NFL did a very good job. The NBA, I don't think it'd be a problem. I think it would stink for those 13 or 14 players that would go on stage or whatever. But obviously, there's more important things.
Yeah, no doubt. Just one more quick thing. I don't know how much you're into high school basketball at all in the state, but it definitely seems to be like growing, and there seems to be like more of a presence in that area, especially with the likes of Jalen Suggs and Chet Holmgren. And do you think that like basketball in Minnesota could ever get up to the likes of, I don't necessarily want to say like hockey is like the state of basketball, but it's starting to like get to that like presence, like it's starting to get like more well known around the state.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think especially when you see more of these guys go to colleges, and I think probably every Gophers fan is like rolling their eyes when they watch a big game nationally and they see a player from Minnesota that's not from, or going to the U of M. I do think Pitino's doing a solid job there, but I think once you see more of those guys make the pros as well from Minnesota, it was funny because this is nowhere here nor there, but we had an interview last weekend with Wally Zerbiak. We were doing the feature on the 2003-2004 season, and he just basically said, he goes, I know that you guys are kind of in a rut right now, but let me tell you, like the Minnesota basketball, is just, they're so passionate, the fans are. And he goes, like, you guys will see that again once you're successful. And I think we are seeing that with the high school, because I think that there is, I think you're absolutely right, over the last 2 or 3 years, like maybe it started with like maybe Tyus, but I think we've seen that progression into like, oh my God, all of a sudden you're seeing these players and you're like, this guy's a 5-star, this guy's a 4-star, this guy's going here, this guy's going here. And you're talking about these guys being NBA prospects. It's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah, just basically as a Gopher fan, like, yes, it is upsetting to see like the Joneses brothers go on to Duke and do their thing, and then now make it Tyus, especially in the NBA,
and especially some guys from Minnesota going over to Wisconsin.
It's like we can't ever forgive them for that.
It's ridiculous.
Well, no, I'm actually glad you brought up the high school thing, because I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to this. The G League is interesting. So like 2 or 3 of the top players from next year's draft class are going into the G League instead of going to a college.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like $50,000 or something like that, right? They're just going to get paid for it.
They get paid. I mean, they get paid.
That's good.
And then they get to play, and they get to be with other professionals going against probably better competition. And I think I know college basketball fans will think that'll be bad for college basketball. I tend to think it'll probably do the opposite, because I think you'll probably see more 3 or 4 year guys go there, because that's the thing, right? It's like, okay, if you lose a top prospect to whatever school, it's like, well, they're only going to be there for a year anyways. And, I don't want to be naive and say that hurts a program, because obviously if you can get a top 5 player, it certainly doesn't hurt. But, I think you'd like the longevity of having guys around. So I think that's something to watch for. I think college basketball fans, high school basketball fans, NBA fans, watch how that G League thing works. I don't know how it's going to work. It's going to be fascinating. They're kind of creating their own team. It could be coached. One of the names being rumored is Sam Mitchell, former Wolves player and coach. But that'll be interesting. That'll be fun to watch, just to kind of see what players decide to do and how colleges react.
Yeah, not really to like back the NCAA on this or anything like that, but it does. It kind of cuts out those like guys that go there, like Devin Booker. He went to college for 6 months. He played the basketball season and he was gone. Like, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Ben Simmons even said that too. He's like, he basically went to class for the fall, went to his, had his basketball season, then he just stopped going to class because why would you? I mean, you're going to be the number one pick. Why would you?
Exactly.
I get the other end. It's like, well, these guys aren't going to class. It's like, dude, they're going to have $6 million in their pocket in 2 months. Like, they're
the second they sign their name on a white piece of paper, their bank account just flies.
Yeah,
there's more checks, it's ridiculous.
So I'm gonna go back to it. I've just had this love for LaMelo Ball. I feel like in the Wolves organization and like the roster, I feel like he would obviously bring like this hype for like the younger generation that have seen him through like Ball's life and stuff like that, and like his videos pulling up from half court and just making just insane. But I think it would drive like some of the younger kids, especially more towards basketball, to see a guy like that just go not really just like go insane for the team, but just to bring like this energy and stuff like that.
I think there's something to be said. I mean, obviously, I think he's probably going to be a top 3, top 4 pick. It looks like, and his style of play is. I mean, it's crazy to think that he might be better than his brother. And in point guards, we tend to judge a point guard 2 or 3 years into the league. And I think Alonso is probably going to be a top 5 point guard in the league one day. Wow. It's hard for them to adjust, right away. And obviously with the Lakers, it was a unique situation. So I think he's still going to be really good. LaMelo, he's exciting. It is funny because I was thinking about this. We all love guards, right? Like everybody loves guards. Yeah. Rarely if you look at jersey sales, it's always like the guards and then the forward centers. And I think that's unfortunate for some of the big guys out there.
Big guys need love too.
And I think part of it,
especially in the paint.
It's like I'm 5'9". My driver's license says 5'10".
Come on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought they were gonna check, and it's like they're not gonna. Okay. What color are your eyes? Gold. Okay. But I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna buy probably like a 7.5 foot guy. His jersey. I'm gonna buy the guy that I relate most to. But so I think that proves your point. Like with the Ball thing, it would build excitement, and I think a lot of people would be excited about watching a player like him. It's going to be an interesting draft. Honestly, most years you have like the number 1 pick, and then you kind of can fill in the rest. This year's draft, I have zero feel for. Yeah. It feels like there's 6 guys in the top 10, and then really anything can happen.
Wow.
Yeah. We got a couple minutes here left. We have a tradition here at 10,000 Takes, rapid fire. We're going to put a minute on the clock, and we're just going to run through some questions. You ready for that?
I don't have a choice, so here we go.
All right, sounds good. Would you rather spend the rest of your life blind or in an Olive Garden?
Probably blind, because I could probably be with my friends still, right? Like, can my friends be in the Olive Garden?
But if you're in an Olive Garden, you can still be with your friends.
But I can't do anything else.
Not really. You can't really go anywhere.
TV, a toilet, and food.
That's my whole life, though. I mean, hey, that's been my life for the last 2 months already.
Nothing. If you were given an all expenses paid trip to Cleveland, would you take it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. I mean, sure.
Hot dish or casserole?
Hot dish.
Yeah. If a movie was made about your life, who would play you?
Topher Grace.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe. I don't know. That's a trick question because you can't pick anybody that's like too good looking or too famous. Otherwise, you seem like you're kind of big head. Yeah. So you have to like pick somebody like mediocre.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Would you rather have a head the size of a tennis ball or the size of a watermelon?
Watermelon.
Good answer.
Minneapolis or St. Paul?
Minneapolis.
All right, very nice. In self-defense, how many fifth graders could you feel you could fend off at one time?
One.
Wow.
Probably one.
Would you rather wear a shirt that's kind of itchy or a pair of shoes with a small pebble in it?
Probably the itchy shirt. I can't. Pebbles in shoes, not for me.
All right. What is more realistic, ghosts or aliens?
Ghosts.
Yeah. If there was, I feel like we all know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If there was one sport you could watch for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Yeah, basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good. All right, guys. Kyle, thanks for coming on. Really enjoyed that.
Thanks for having me, guys. Hey, this is so awesome. Everybody watching, donate if you can. This is a super cool cause. You guys be proud of yourselves.
Thank you so much.
That.
Very
Thank
appreciated. One last thing, go to www.10000takesmn.com, Sota-stream to donate. Kyle, thanks again.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You too.
Thanks, buddy.
Take care.